How's it going, everyone? Welcome into the Offseason podcast. We're super excited to be back for week 3 of the offseason already. It's unbelievable. Before we dive into the show too much, I'm your host, Hunter, joined as always by Brodie and Trevor. I just want to remind you, if you want to be a part of the show, you want to control the content you're hearing or seeing this offseason, be sure to check the link in the description down below and submit your topics, submit your funny stories, submit your random questions. As long as it's somewhere disc golf themed, it doesn't really matter. Beyond that, we're going to pick random ones and we might just talk about you and give you a little shout out on the show. We're going to be all over the place today. I'll just put it that way. We got some funny stories. We've got tragedy, I'll call it. And some topics. But
the heck?
How are y'all doing this week?
Delightful.
Yeah, I'm doing fine. I wasn't ready to start crying on the podcast.
I don't think you'll cry.
I'm preparing myself now.
Tragedy.
It made me sad. It was something that should never happen, but hey, we'll keep that until the end. We're gonna start it off with a nice little story.
End on a nice tragedy. Buckle
That's
in.
the best way to do it.
Yeah.
We're gonna start with a nice story here from Stephen Bertram. He said, I've been playing disc golf for about 3 years and would consider myself a relatively competitive player. I've consistently averaged about 2 rounds a week since I started playing, and I've made disc golf my main hobby since starting. I'm 28 years old and my dad is 59. My dad has always been incredibly athletic and is generally good at everything he does. I live in a different state than my dad, but every time we visit each other, I bring my bag so we can play a few rounds together, as he loves the idea of the sport since a large part of our childhood was throwing the frisbee with him nearly every day. The first few rounds we played together, my dad wasn't even remotely competitive. Without keeping score, he was easily throwing 20 over par every time. Until I lent him my Thrasher for a round at Sunset Park in Las Vegas, where he unintentionally hyzer flipped that Thrasher and walked me on that round. I don't know what he means by walked me on that round. I'm assuming he means he beat him. I don't know if I'm just out of lingo there, but
I was just saying that's what the cool kids are saying.
Maybe.
Yeah, I like it. I kind of like it.
Walked me on that round. I was happy for him playing well, but internally frustrated that he played better than I did while throwing a disc that he didn't even know how to throw correctly, just mostly accidentally flipping it up. He could tell I was frustrated and mentioned it at the end of the round, but it was a good sport as usual. After the round, he told me to make sure to bring that Thrasher for him the next time we play. Since then, I've always conveniently forgotten the Thrasher at home.
Well, first of all, I don't think you can accidentally throw a hyzer flip. I don't think that's really...
You definitely can.
But what do you mean? It sounds like he had it figured out. Like maybe the first time you're like, oh, that's cool, that disc flips up. But after that,
to beat him, I guess he had to have figured it out. Out.
I don't know. I don't know about that claim, but hey, I will say something about the thing about Thrasher is even a beginner can get that thing to flip up. It is very flippy.
You can find some stable Thrashers. Yeah. You can find some sneaky ones.
The ones I've ever thrown have been, I have seen some
Janus Thrasher? Those things are stable.
No, that was the one I had that was crazy flippy.
Oh, really?
Well, you're thinking of, we ran a different one than, there was the Janus one, and then we ran the other stamp. The other stamp that we ran was very flippy. But Hunter has thrown some that are kind of straight. Yeah, that's the one that we ran that was crazy
these
flippy.
Are good. If you get the right dome on them, they're money.
Well,
they were turn.
No, they were good,
right?
but they were just super easy to. They were just super easy to flip up.
Well,
but they're easy to flip up, but they're not like.
No, I don't.
They're not like roller flip.
Oh, I do after I tuned in your live stream last night. Now I throw real far.
I love these. I might need to put a Thrasher back in the bag. Now that I'm feeling this again, a little hyzer flip to turn. Is that what I'm missing? Trevor knows my bag better than I do. Is that what I'm missing?
No. We went through this with Kelsey because she just did not know, not even did not know, she couldn't release a backhand flat. She was super nose up, super hyzer every single time. And so I'm like, the only way you're going to be able to throw like a decent backhand is if we figure out a disc that's flippy enough. And the only one that we ever figured out was that ringer, that beat up pink ringer that I have. That's like the flippiest disc of all time. And she was able to actually throw that somewhat far. So,
you know what? I just realized. So like Brodie just came out with the F9. That's like the flippiest fairway driver on the market. Latitude has like
F7 was before that. Was that the highest it went?
They jumped from the F7 to F9.
Yeah.
Wow. Latitude has like the diamond. Or is that dynamic? That's latitude. Discraft doesn't really have that like
the heat,
but it's not like the diamond's flippier. Yeah, and the F9's flippier.
Here's the problem. The thing about the diamond that you're missing though is that it's always sold at like 150 grams.
So maybe the F9's a better version.
If you had a 150 gram heat, it would be pretty close.
I have them.
There you go.
We could
That might
test
be
it
the
out.
disc.
We could test it
That
out.
might be the
'Cause
disc. I think
the diamond though, I do claim like within like normal discs that you typically see, like not talking about just like random 120 gram ones. The diamond is pretty much the flippiest driver that exists.
Is the F9 flippier though?
I mean,
Be close. Because
it's
the F9 we were
close.
throwing max weight,
But-
and it
well,
was
yeah,
flipping like
well,
a diamond.
right. That's what I'm saying. When I talk about the diamond, I'm talking about a disc that weighs 150 grams. Just like that's just what it does. That's
Yeah.
Apparently, you can buy max weight ones. I've never thrown them, but the diamond is just crazy flippy.
What's the disc that Ezra Robinson has? That like, you know what I'm talking about?
He might throw an H7.
He has. It might be
Dude,
like
I-
120 grams or something.
know.
What? I never heard of that.
He throws it and it does like the turtle back thing where it flips over upside down and then flips again.
Oh,
Yeah,
He did it in a tournament. He threw it on
it's electric.
He threw it, I think, when they were playing that really terrible course where it was like super wooded and it was like awful. No one liked it. Last year, silver event, Joel Freeman won.
Oh, was it the one where he like
What was
popped
that?
off? Joel Freeman like had one of the rounds of the
he
year.
had like the greatest
Oh, that
round
was
of
in
all
New York.
time.
Was it New York?
Rochester?
Was
Is
it
that Rochester?
I have a computer in front of me.
But last year, wasn't it in Pittsburgh last year? I thought it was in Pittsburgh
Was
last
it
year.
Rochester.
Joel
this
Freeman
year?
won it, right? Apparently, the computer was like my only source of light when I just went to the tab. I just,
Gosh.
just
Going
disappeared.
dark.
It went super
Um,
dark. What the heck
did
was
Joel-
that?
Was it? It wasn't Butler County. That's not a
Yes.
silver
Yes.
event.
Yes.
Yeah,
it wasn't a
where was
silver
that?
event though.
No, it was just an
Yeah, it
A
was.
tier. I think that
No,
qualified
I'm
you for
looking at it. It wasn't a
USDGC.
silver event. It was
No,
in
Butler County
Pennsylvania,
was.
I could've
Cranberry Township.
Yeah, I thought
I
it
could
was.
have only. I've almost. I would. I would
Ezra
swear.
Robinson was not at this event. It was not Butler County.
Oh, well.
There you go.
All right, well, I have no idea what I'm talking about, but he does have a disc. Maybe he's watching. Maybe one of those guys are watching the show. They can tell me, and it's the sickest shot of all time. It just like completely flips over and then flips back. So cool.
Yeah,
Oh, and
Joel
the
didn't win a silver event this
That
year.
was yeah. I think that,
Maybe it was
that
last
Butler
year.
County was just an A tier, but it had a qualifying spot for USDGC, so a bunch of
So
people
that's how
went
people cared.
because like
Wait,
Innova
what?
was presenting it.
Was it really not a silver event? That's so weird.
It was not
All
a
right,
silver event. I'm looking at it.
Okay.
Where are you
But,
looking
yeah.
at
That
it
is
though?
that is the round that he like shot incredible. And everyone was saying like this is the greatest round.
Are
of
you
the
looking at it
season.
on PDGA? Because it might not say on PDGA.
Well, no, it says all the other silver events on PDGA.
Oh,
Because
okay.
like no one was here. It was Joel Freeman, Clay Edwards, Brad Schick. Like
No,
it
it was a silver. I'm looking at it on Disc Golf Scene.
was Butler County Disc Golf Classic,
2022.
2023, this year.
No, we're talking about
No, we're
last
talking
year's.
about last year.
Oh well, then that's a
This
whole
year
different
wasn't on
conversation.
tour.
Yeah, well, Joel Freeman played it again this year, the Butler County.
Oh well, Ezra might have played it last year then.
Yeah.
Well, let me go. Last year was a
Wow,
silver event.
you're trying to act like I don't know
We
what I'm
did say
talking
last
about
When you
year.
here.
say last year, I'm thinking
I'm
like
the
we're
freaking
in the
source.
off season. Last year is his most
Oh,
recent
no.
year.
No,
I mean,
no,
that's-
we're still in 2023.
We're still in
brother.
2023.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah, that threw me for a
Ezra
loop.
Robinson still did not play it.
Oh, okay.
Checkmate. Check and
yeah.
mate.
All right, fair enough.
Unless there's a
Butler
different
County,
year.
baby.
He shot a 57 was the round. Yeah, 1077 last year. That was in 2022 when he did that.
Yeah.
Why did I
Yeah.
think that was like this past year?
Mm-mm.
Fascinating. All
That
right,
was
well,
his legacy game.
that was. This next, the first topic was submitted by Beef Tacos. Was the name that was
Nice.
put in. He
Nice.
says, as a Floridian that lives in the Tampa Bay area, I'm stoked for the Florida Open. Do you guys think this was a good addition to the tour, and will it be a tournament that will remain for years to come? I'm more obviously. I think it was a good addition to the tour. I'm more interested of like, do we think the current schedule of start in Florida and in the Southeast is like a long-term play, or what are we thinking with that?
I think this probably the start. Yes, I don't think they're gonna linger in Texas as long as they are necessarily. I think right now they're avoiding the West Coast for reasons that we could probably infer. Some legal trouble that they've gotten in those states, but I think the Florida start makes sense. I'm bummed that Wild Horse got booted off the schedule because I thought it was a really cool event and that course is awesome. But hey, I guess it depends if the McCease lawsuit doesn't turn the wrong way. You know, they're still tied up in that.
Oh yeah, are they still fighting that?
It's not really a thing. I watched the discgolf.law like video on it. It's not a law. I mean, the guy literally signed a waiver that signed away his like safety when he played the tournament, like everybody does. It's like not even.
Well, I've just heard sometimes those those waivers don't really hold up in court.
From what I saw in the video, that lawsuit does not hold any water. And what's happening is McCease is basically, they could have just settled outside of court and just avoided all the legal fees and made it not a big deal, but they're putting their foot down like, no, we're going to spend the legal money to make sure that they don't set a precedent. Because imagine if they settled and they set a precedent that now says
every time
now all those
up,
PDGA waivers are kaput. So they're actually doing a pretty good thing and stepping up for those waivers and fighting this to make sure that they set the legal precedent that, oh, you can't just sue over these waivers that are being handed out at PDGA sanctioned events. Like, they hold some weight. So yeah.
Also, no one likes that guy.
No,
so that also might be,
and nobody does.
That might be part of it. If it was a different person, it might be a different scenario.
How much because I didn't hear it's the guy who owns Local Root or something, right?
Well, and they rewrote the initial
he was someone who was
lawsuit too.
disliked before.
Allegedly,
Yes.
Before all this,
all the Florida people said that.
I hadn't heard of it before this.
And when they wrote the initial complaint and submitted to the courts, they it was pretty dramatic. I don't know what happened to this guy, but I've seen some disc injuries and they're never life threatening typically. I mean, that guy got decked by that Eagle grenade and he just needed a few stitches. It wasn't that big of a deal at the end of the day. And he wrote it out like it was he was suing for gross negligence, I want to say, on the part of the tournament organizers and saying that it caused him serious physical damage and it's some crazy stuff. And then when they actually rewrote their complaint, which is typical, and I think with a different lawyer as well, and they kind of toned down the language a little bit. They made it a little more not as dramatic sounding, but I don't think anything's going to happen.
So the Las Vegas challenge, back to that is.
Wait, can I answer that question real quick?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, are you going to a different topic?
No, I'm on the same topic.
Oh, okay.
Trevor had said he was sad Las Vegas was bumped from the schedule.
Go ahead. Sorry. I thought you were going to a different topic.
Las Vegas challenge is scheduled for May of this year, so I'm interested if it becomes part of the qualifying series.
It's got to be, because there's no way they would run a tournament there if it wasn't something.
That's what I would think. It is A tier, Pro-Am A tier, May 9th through the 12th.
It's going to be a qualifying series event for sure.
What were you about to say, Brodie?
Baby. I was going to say, okay, so starting in Florida, this was something that the Pro Tour sent out to all the players for us to put input on where we would like the tour to start and all this. And I think that was the consensus for most people. It is a little weird that we play I guess they do two events, right? They do the All-Star and then we play that one, the Florida Open.
And then you just go straight to Texas.
Then we bypass everything to go to Texas. I think it would make sense to have maybe a tournament in Georgia, maybe hit DDO or hit another Kansas, something in there, Arkansas, Jones. We kind of go pretty close to Jonesboro. It makes sense to kind of hit those a little bit more in the South. And then hit Texas, Vegas, out into the West Coast, and then come back and kind of do all this Central, right? Ledgestone, Idlewild, those kind of tournaments up there, Preserve, Des Moines, and then kind of finish Northeast back down to the South. But I will say I need to start asking guys when they tell me stuff that I want to talk about, hey, is it okay if I say that you told me this? Because I feel okay talking about stuff, but I don't feel good latching someone's name on if we're just talking and having a conversation, right? So
that makes sense.
I won't say who told me this, but I've had a couple people that know that course well, and they do have concerns about it. That would be my only thing.
I haven't watched it in a long time.
The difficulty or about layout?
about the tee pads. There's not permanent tee pads. Essentially saying they don't think it is ready for Pro Tour. Now,
but is that something that will be solved come start of the season?
Correct. This was brought up to me months ago, and knowing that you are going to be the first event of the season, you have months to get it ready, right? Yeah. They're just going off of what the tournament was or what the course was when they last played it, and they were saying that they were kind of worried that this is not a tour course.
There's way too much money behind it. They better have tee pads, good tee pads. That would just be
I would assume everything would be.
It doesn't really work out if you've got a couple millionaire owners and not permanent tee pads.
Well, but that kind of still falls on the Pro Tour, in my opinion. Like if you're picking a course, like that better be something the Pro Tour is verifying and checking. Because like
it's true.
The part of the problem I think the PDGA has gotten into, in my opinion, is they put too much responsibility on the course designer, course owner, local area, whatever, and they don't take enough responsibility themselves. And so I'm hoping the Pro Tour isn't going to do the same thing, where like if you're choosing a course for a major, or in this case for a Pro Tour, then you're tying your name to it, and it needs to be up to your standards, or at least have like a promise or a written contract that it will be by the time you roll into town, so that now you at least have something. Because like what will happen sometimes is like if they show up and the driving range isn't rented, then they're like, well, what the heck? The local
that was the PDGA. Don't do the Pro Tour under the wall. Yeah.
I'm saying the PDGA has a history of that. I'm hoping the Pro Tour isn't doing the same thing. So I'm saying, as much as it is on the course to have those tee pads and stuff ready, I'm hoping the Pro Tour is the one like pushing the issue and being like, hey, if we're rolling up, we need to have X, Y, and Z, these demands met before we agree to this. And then if it's like 100% that's going to happen, then they agree and put it on the schedule. I'm hoping that's how it works, and the Pro Tour isn't just throwing it on the schedule and then crossing their fingers that Paul and Dylan and whoever they have on the grounds are going to get stuff done. Because while I trust they will, that should be the Pro Tour's responsibility to make sure that happens.
Yeah.
The next one, this is an interesting one that I've experienced, not to this level, but it is interesting as the sport gets bigger, players get more competitive on all levels. Interesting thing to think about. So this is from Jamie from Georgia. He said, in my first disc golf tournament, I played with the assistant TD on the final round, quote unquote, lead card for MA4. It was absolutely flooding that day, and my course has a lot of holes with really bad standing water when it rains heavy. I'd been playing for only a few months. On an early hole in the round, I found my disc in an area of standing water. We had clarification from the TD at the beginning of the round about standing water and casual relief. Bring the disc straight back on the line of play. I had asked the card for relief. One person was undecided, the other agreed, but then the assistant TD spoke up and denied it. At the time of this lie, the assistant TD was ahead of me by about 3 strokes. The way he denied my request felt like it was for his own competitive advantage. Fast forward 10 holes, and he finds himself in almost the exact same situation. At that point, he had fallen behind the card by several strokes and was no longer competing for the win. He asked for relief that provided a competitive advantage and was granted it by the card. How do you guys feel about tournament staff playing in tournaments?
Welcome to a small sport, brother.
Well, I was gonna say, if you're gonna play like a C tier or a B tier, especially, like, you get what you pay for, basically. Like, you can't walk into an event like that and expect everything to go down as if you're playing on the Pro Tour. It's just not gonna happen. So while that's unfortunate and like really annoying, and I would have been heated as well, it's what's gonna happen. Like, it just is what it is.
I feel like
Although the tournament's big enough to have an assistant TD, it's like,
well, there are rules of like B tier, C tier. Like, I don't know what level. At some point, TDs can't play. I don't know assistant TD if they just fall under like this weird gray area. But I feel like a TD or assistant TD, if you're a player, you should, like, during your round, there should be like some type of, I don't know if it necessarily needs to be a rule, but like an understanding that like during your round, you're just another player.
Well, it sounded like it was just a majority situation though, right? Like, one of the other guys, he said
the other guy was undecided. People. Like, one guy was, where is it at? One guy was undecided.
So one guy's undecided.
Other agreed that he got relief, and the assistant TD denied it. So
like, does he assist? Okay,
but I think the assistant TD is basically saying, no, that doesn't work. But like, who's going to question the assistant TD?
That's the problem.
Yeah, I think that the assistant TD should definitely function as a normal player on their own card at the very least. Because like,
if someone's undecided, first off, you can't be undecided. But then even if that person rolled with the TD, but then I'm saying I get relief, Brodie's agreeing with me, it's split, and the PDGA rule is if it's split, benefit goes to the player. So then, therefore, I would get it.
Right.
But in this case, it sounds like the assistant TD just stepped up and said no, and then everyone just shut up and moved on.
Yeah, and you're never going to be able to, even if you're like, all right, I'm just a normal player, you're still not going to take away people looking at you as like an authority figure in that. You can't take that away of where, oh, this person's voting for this, I probably should vote for that. What I will say, though, there should just be a standard rule about casual water. It is crazy that the TD has to tell you before you go out and play, hey, hole 4, there's a puddle here. Hole 7, there's a puddle here. There needs to be a standard rule that if you're in your lie behind your disc and water comes up off the ground, you're in casual water. Right. And you get free relief back. And just that's the rule.
Just like any standing water is casual.
Yeah, like you just have to denote it should be. It's kind of like the back years ago when I first started TDing, the 2 meter rule was always in effect unless the TD said the 2 meter rule is not in effect. And then they eventually flipped it because they're like, that doesn't make sense. No one uses it. So now the 2 meter rule is only in effect if you say it. That's how this should be, is like all water is casual. Yeah. The 2 meter rule.
I think it should be like where you can remove a stick behind your lie. It should be like that. It's just a rule.
That's what I'm saying, is all water is casual except for if a TD says it's OB. Like it should be that thing.
Well, they would. Wait, what?
Like right now, a TD has to like denote you get casual relief, whatever, blah, blah, blah. That should just be the standard rule. All water is casual on every course, period, except for if the course sign / TD
Well, yeah, I think that's obvious. If you're in a lake, then that's casual water, right?
But a puddle's not always. I'm saying all standing water, period, is casual relief. That should just be the standard.
Wait, so you're saying people, if they threw a puddle, if they okay, hold on.
He's saying unless it is marked.
If they threw their disc OB, like there's a line, and they threw their disc OB, but it lands in a puddle, you think some people are gonna be like, hey, I'm in a puddle, I think I'm casual?
No, he's just saying the understand.
So what are you saying? There needs to be a distinction.
He's saying there should just be all water's casual. Right now, no water. Like if nothing's said, water's not casual. It's not OB either. It's just you got to play it where it lies. Okay. I'm saying it should be defined all water's casual, period. So if you're in a puddle, you get casual relief.
Yes.
And then water is only OB if a tournament director says it's OB. So if you're playing
I guess it's just I guess I got confused when you said the tournament director says it's OB. Like to me, the tournament director should never say anything. It should just be Sorry, I took it as like you're saying, hey, today, guys, the water on hole 7 is playing as OB.
No.
Versus like...
I'm saying like a
because
creek.
that happens. By the way, that happens. If you guys didn't know that, that happens. It's really annoying. You show up the next day and the tournament director talks to you, or not the tournament director, whoever's the starter talks to you. And we've had tournaments where people have played holes differently because of what they were told on hole 1. And it's like, what are we doing? Why are we having rules told to us right before we're about to play the course?
Yeah.
But sorry, I digress.
Yeah. No, I was more just saying because like a creek right now, if the creek isn't defined as casual or as OB, then you just have to play it as it lies. Like if there's nothing said about it, then you just got to get your foot in the creek.
Yes.
I'm saying water should either be casual or OB, and it's just soon to be casual unless a tournament director says, hey, this water's OB.
Yeah. Well, because like casual water, you're never going to really gain an advantage from taking casual other than just getting out of water. Like you're moving backwards.
You're moving backwards.
Like the only thing
casual, you can just put your foot in the water.
Right. So it's a very like safe rule to utilize. You can't really abuse the casual water rule. Like, I mean, it's just not really a thing.
Yeah, I would agree. This next topic from Corey, it's going to be a bit of a long one, but he basically has a proposal for a season structure that he wanted to run by us.
Oh gosh.
So he says, I have a convoluted proposal for a season structure that might work better than the current one in regards to season performance, playoffs, world/pro tour championship, conflation, etc. I don't know what that word means. Clearly, there are many kinks.
Is that like a confusion thing?
I think so.
I'll look it up.
Clearly, there are many kinks and details that would need to be worked out, but wanted to see how this hits your ears. There's a regular season of Disc Golf Pro Tour events that rack up points throughout the season. Point awards can function similarly the way they do now and determine players' standings at the end of the regular season. There are 4 majors throughout the regular season that each award the winner individual titles, i.e. U.S. Disc Golf Champion, European Champion, etc., and an immediate entry into the World Championship Tournament, which is at the end of the season and functions similar to the Pro Tour Championship. These majors are Champions Cup, European Open, Worlds, this one under a new name, and USDGC. These are basically glorified regular season tournaments with bigger field, bigger payout, bigger points award, and associated titles and bragging rights. At the end of the regular season, there's a series of 2 or 3 tournaments that are quote-unquote playoff events that actually function as playoffs for entry into the end of the season World Championship tournament. Based on the player ranking determined by points in the regular season, players are awarded stroke advantages for each of these playoff tournaments based on their current standings. So, for example, if the highest stroke advantage awarded is 6 strokes, then this year Calvin Heimberg would have entered each of the playoff events starting with a score of -6. If you played poorly throughout the regular season, these events would be your only chance to make it into the World Championship, albeit at a severe disadvantage. At the end of each playoff tournament, there's a cut where the bottom scoring players are eliminated from the playoffs and thus eliminated from entering the World Championship tournament. Their season's over. At the end of the playoffs, we're left with the top however many players who then move on to play at the World Championship. The format ensures that the following players are the ones who are most likely to be in the World Championships. Players who played out of their mind all season and thus have a huge advantage in the playoffs. Players who played well all season and also played well in the playoffs. Players who played out of their mind in the playoffs and make the cut regardless of the regular season performance, and players who won majors. Then the World Championship tournament finishes off the season with a group of elite players playing 5-round tournament to determine that year's Worlds. Basically, playoffs are what qualifies you to enter the World Championships, and playing well in the regular season gives you an advantage in the playoffs. Majors are their own standalone important tournaments with the history and pomp and circumstance that also happens to award points and a free entry into Worlds. Worlds, as it exists now, can be the same type of tournament, same course in history, just called something else.
That makes sense. Well, this is kind of what we talked about last week with like the qualifying for Worlds and like only being a smaller field of like 50 or so. I do think it would be fun. Like I've always said, I think playoff events would be more fun if the cuts were harsher, because right now you just don't see notable players getting cut until you get to the Tour Championship. So I do like the idea of like, okay, the playoffs start and we're gonna narrow down the field like really intense, like maybe even to the top 30. Like we just cut it down a ton to where like really good players are potentially getting scrapped out of that to try and make it to the World Championship. It's definitely you're basically substituting a Tour Championship for Worlds, which I kind of is like another thing we've talked about, which is like the idea of let's make Worlds like kind of use its title and justify it a little bit more by placing it somewhere a little bit harder to reach than just like anybody can play in this event. I mean, it's an interesting idea. It gets rid of the Tour Championship.
Yes.
I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't necessarily feel attached to that event. Really, it's just a big money handout at the end of the year.
Unless you wanted basically after the last playoff event to just call the points leader the Tour champion. So like the Tour Championship was basically the last playoff event in a roundabout way.
I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate if they took, if they did it this way, if they did the way that he just described it, where Worlds happens at the end of a certain amount of playoff events. And I wouldn't hate it if they took the money that they allocate to a Tour Championship and they just handed it out to people who performed over the season. Because at the end of the day, that is a really hard thing to do. That is the hardest thing to do, is finish at the top of the Tour standings. And if there were a lot of money associated with it, not just like hey, here's a little trophy, Calvin, then people would care. We would be tracking the points race a lot closer towards the end of the year, because we were tracking it a little bit because we were like, oh, what if Isaac flips it in these last 2 events? Like we were kind of tracking it, but it would be a way bigger deal if you're trying to hold your points lead, knowing that there is like thousands and thousands of dollars in one. Right. So like that could be I mean, you see like every sports league right now trying to create like a side interest. For instance, the NBA just created an in-season tournament because they're trying, like they kind of took the soccer model a little bit of like, what if we had these side interests so we can make games that happen during the middle of the season have importance. The NBA, they wanted, for example, just people to pay more attention to the regular season because they're both tournament games and regular season games at the same time. So like that would be the idea, is like, okay, let's create a side interest. Now, not only are you fighting for just your place in qualifying or the playoffs or whatever, but there's also this huge bonus. So points are a lot more important. It would come at the right time with silver events kind of getting phased out, because that's a whole mess whenever you're just rewarding players for just basically playing as much disc golf as possible. But the way they're structuring it now, that would function a lot better. I don't know.
Well, it would also, I think, incentivize, like we're going to see players, I think, pick and choose their schedule a little bit more and more as there's more money coming from outside of playing, and because like players don't want to be playing basically every weekend from March to February, or from February to November now. Players don't want to be doing that.
Crazy.
But it would incentivize, especially down the stretch, your players in contention to be at all the big events more and more, because if points alone determine who is the tour champion, then you aren't going to have to worry nearly as much about players missing these elite plus events you're trying to tell everyone's more important, and then you have like a Chris and Tatari not show up.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about that nearly as much, because it's like, well, you're the one risking the tour championship title, because right now it's like, okay, so instead of starting at 6 under, I start at 5 under, and then after 2 rounds that are races, and I just got to beat the rest of the field. Like, who the frick cares? I just got to make it to the final day, and then I can win. It would erase that side. And I do like, because like where we, I think, disagreed is I liked the idea of Worlds kind of having that stroke head start, and we disagreed on that a little bit. This would like be the best of both worlds, because the stroke head start would be in effect for the playoffs. So it kind of made sure the best players make it to Worlds, but then it erases for the world championship. So it like cuts the field down, gives the playoffs a little bit more meaning, because everyone's playing for something to get to Worlds. But then Worlds, you qualified to get there, you earned your spot there, and then it's just a tournament to end it all.
Think about like on the AM side, like players have to try to qualify for Worlds, and like it's not like super difficult, but it's a thing. Like it would be very cool if Worlds in pro disc golf had that kind of allure to it, like where it's a much more like a higher held thing where you had to like squeeze your way in. Because right now the tour championship is so hard to get to, and granted there's a lot of money on the line, but nobody really watches it. And if you did it with Worlds though, people would watch it. I don't hate the idea of trading out the tour championship, putting Worlds in that spot, making it a tough cut to get there, and then just handing out the money according to point standings. It's an interesting idea.
The problem that I think would stop this whole thing is that would mean the PDGA would have to give up control of the world championship.
Right. That's where these things get difficult. Is right now the tour championship is like the Pro Tour's baby, and Worlds is the PDGA's like, it's like their final hostage.
What is stopping the Pro Tour from calling the tour championship the Disc Golf World Championship anyways?
The PDGA just button heads with them probably.
But like, there's no trademarks, right? Like US Disc Golf's trademarked. World Championship's not.
It's tough to know how that relationship goes. Like whenever they kind of like merged and like they kind of like basically booted out the national tour and ended up merging and becoming like the official tour of the PDGA. It's tough to know how those conversations went, right? Like did those conversations go, the Pro Tour walked in and said, listen, we'll let you tag along because you've got a big name and you've been around, but we're the boss here? Or is it the PDGA like, hey, like who is the upper hand? You would think it would be the Pro Tour, but
I think the Pro Tour has the upper hand, but I think the PDGA thinks they do.
Well, the PDGA probably has the assets, because when I think about who's financially in a better place, it's probably the PDGA.
Yeah, PDGA. Well, yeah.
Because they be raking in the money.
They got millions chilling in the bank.
They be raking in the money. So that is an interesting part of the idea there, is that the PDGA might have the financial upper hand, and money talks.
It is interesting. It is fascinating.
Okay, I kind of wanted to say a few things real quick. First one, conflation is the merging of two or more sets of information, text, ideas into one. So conflation can cause confusion when you're combining, right?
Very good.
The second is, I want to just say real quick, there's a lot of people. First off, the slander against the U.S. Open and the slander against the Open in golf, I will not stand for. The fact that people just think the Masters is the biggest major in golf just shows that you're an absolute casual when it comes to golf. It isn't. It depends on who you are. There are people that will fight for the U.S. Open. There are people that fight for the Open. The only thing every golf fan will agree on is the PGA is the least of those 4 majors. I just want to say that real quick. But because people that watch our podcast think the Masters is the most important, this is how you actually qualify for the Masters. So this could be interesting for some. You have to win it. So if you win, you're exempt for life. You have to win one of the other 3 majors. So if you win one of the other 3, you have a 5-year exemption into the Masters. You have to win the Players, so that is like the PGA Tours. That's the only kind
major.
of pseudo major they have. You get a 3-year exemption if you win the Players. If you win the Olympic gold medal, so the year after, you get a 1-year exemption, which I thought was fascinating. That's weird. If you win or finish runner-up at an elite amateur tournament, so they have like the U.S. Amateur, they have the British Amateur, the Asian Pacific Amateur. This is how they kind of get those amateurs, the 8 or so amateurs that are in the field every year. Top 12 finishers the year before at the Masters, they get invited back. If you win a PGA Tour event, you get in. If you qualify for the Tour Championship, so the top 30 that qualify. If you're top 50 player in the world as of January 1st, and if you're top 50 in the world the week before the Masters, that's how you get in. So the way they have it the way they have it basically is if you're good at golf, you're playing at the Masters. Yeah, you can't like sneaky not get in, which I think is cool.
It's a good system.
It sounds a lot like
exemptions
is the closest.
Exemptions are a great, exemptions are a great system.
It's so far away from USDGC though. You said
it's the closest in disc golf,
and it's so far away though because you have people just going.
Champions Cup would also be.
Well, yeah, no.
Champions Cup might be the closest.
Yeah, I say USDGC is closer to, and it's closer to an open event because you have a qualifying event.
I was just thinking like
qualifying.
You were talking about like elite amateur events, so like NADGT, College Disc Golf Nationals, they get you into USDGC, and then like winner exemption. If you win USDGC, you're exempt for life. If you're top 10, you're able to come back next year. So like that stuff was reminding me of USDGC, but Champions Cup's a lot more like if you win a big tournament, you're able to play in the Champions Cup. So I don't know. Maybe it's like a hybrid between Champions Cup and
the exemptions. The exemptions are a good system for actually 2 reasons. Number one, they protect the players in the sense that if you obviously you can earn exemptions by playing well, but it's actually good for the tournament in the sense that if you have a guy like Ricky Fowler is a good example. If you have a guy like Ricky Fowler who is very popular, but then kind of falls off a little bit, he can be protected due to exemptions, due to past success, so that he stays on TV because people watched a guy like Ricky Fowler. And honestly, Ricky Fowler's exemptions kind of saved his career in a way because he stayed on camera and in those events longer than maybe he would have. And guess what? He righted the ship. He turned it around. He got better again.
He didn't play in the majors.
Yeah, he didn't for a little bit. He kind of expired there, but he was hanging around for a while on some of his exemptions. Like it was like a storyline they were talking about, and that's good for events. Is like if you're the Masters and you keep having your past winners come back, even if that's their only event, it's a good storyline. Like hey, Ángel Cabrera or like some guy who won who is like maybe Sergio Garcia in the future if he's not good enough to qualify, but guys will love to see him at the Masters because people love watching Sergio. It'll be a nice little storyline. Hey, look, here's our little flashback to when he won his first major and it was the Masters. It's good for the event too. So the exemption system just makes a lot of sense.
Well, we literally saw that this year with Will Schustrick.
Very true.
Literally, we saw it firsthand.
Yeah, very true.
Will Schustrick had no business being able to play at USDGC other than the fact that he won the event. Like he didn't do anything. He didn't play on tour at all that year, but him being there, that was a huge pop. That was a major thing for a lot of fans there. So
and then
there's a lot of good stuff there.
On the flip side, you have Avery Jenkins not being able to play Worlds.
That's crazy. That's
the flip side of the same coin.
That is crazy.
It was what, like 23, 24 years he had played World
so
straight,
bad,
something
man.
like that.
I think it would have been his 25th year.
Here's what's worse about that and like embarrassing for the PDGA. It's not even like you're letting in all these guys. You've only had 2 guys have won like half your world championships ever. Like between
one of them won't play.
But
the other thing
Paul
too
and Kenny,
is it's not like they're saying like, oh my gosh, like Avery, if we let you in, we have to kick out like Ezra Robinson. We have to kick out freaking I don't know, like
it's not that many spots.
Emerson Keith. It's like, no, we have 200 people and 100 of these people don't even play on tour.
Yeah, I mean, since
add an extra person.
Since the year 2000, we've got like Doss, Jenkins, McCabe, Ricky, Paul, Barsby, Conrad. That's 7. I might Feldberg maybe. So maybe there might be 8 guys since 2000. And then before that, like you have a sprinkle, you got a sprinkle of guys in the 80s that probably wouldn't even play anymore. Like it's just so silly to me. Just like throw them in the event. What are we doing? I wonder if that was just an oversight, but it couldn't have been because I'm sure Avery brought it up to those guys. But maybe it would not surprise me if next year they're like, starting now, you guys all get exemptions.
I think it was an oversight.
It had to be an oversight.
But it was an oversight that was enforced where like there's not world championship exemptions. And so then he like brought it to them and they're like,
well, because it was too late.
Qualify.
They had filled the tournament. Like that's what made it weird. They were like, oh, we gotta bounce somebody out. It's like, I mean, just make another tea time.
Well, yeah.
Send someone out at 6:45.
Yeah, like
I mean, I don't know how did it not cross someone's mind that world champions should just be exempt and be allowed to play in the tournament? And like that's just
crazy, man.
Like you just have all of them pre-registered, and then like if the wait list fills because like Kenny and Rick Vokes and all these guys aren't going to show up, perfect, great. But like at least you got them or something, or at least they have a spot if they want it. Because also like Kenny used to come. Say Kenny like I know him. What the frick? Climo used to come. The champ would come and play like one hole at USDGC. This is like a ceremonial. He was the first tee time. Him and Pete May, they would like tee off, throw a hole, and Dave Dunapace, and then they DNF after like a hole or two, just to like ceremonially kick off the tournament. They didn't take up any spots at USDGC. It was just like a thing.
That's another idea they kind of took from the Masters. Who's it? Is it Gary Player, Jack Nicklaus? Is it just those two? Or Fred Couples?
Palmer.
Well, used to be Arnold Palmer. Did they bring in Freddie, like Fred Couples last year?
No.
I guess not. I was trying to think because like obviously they don't have Arnie anymore.
There's a really old guy that we're missing. I'll look it up real quick.
I don't want to say a crazy name.
I'm the wrong person to even be a part of this conversation.
Don't say Greg Norman.
No, it's not the Shark. Captain Liv.
One more topic, and then we'll get into this final story. I think I'm getting a migraine. I'm just losing vision in the center, so I might not be able to read this. I'll try to read this, and if I can't, I'll just text Trevor. I'll text Trevor the story. Bubba?
It was Watson.
Oh, Tom Watson.
All right, this is from Sean. Yeah, no chance I read this. I'm gonna text it to Trevor. Trevor, you can read this.
What is happening to you, Hunter?
I don't know what just happened. It's happened to me like once before.
Everybody keep an eye on Hunter's screen if he falls over.
Are you losing your eyesight?
I got a migraine like this before where like I just lose the center of my vision and it makes where I can't read.
You playing too much Risk?
Okay.
I did play some Risk this morning.
Oh no. All right. This is from Sean. Disc golf clinics shouldn't be $400. This is not targeted towards any particular pro. I've been playing for 6 years. My form is solid, but I struggle to reach even 300 feet. I probably need a targeted lesson to see what I should be working on. There are no local pros who are able to give me a lesson, and all the pros on the East Coast are too expensive. I understand everyone needs to make a living, but dang, $400 is a lot for one lesson. I would agree with you because you can get golf lessons for even cheaper than that.
Yeah. I wanted to just ask, like,
or you could just watch my live stream last night for free.
What should disc golf lessons be like priced at?
Depends on who you are. It depends on who you are. The problem is, if
the price should be at what people should pay, what people are willing to pay.
That's the problem.
The name of the world.
People are definitely willing to pay $400.
Well, then that's what you should charge.
I say if you are selling lessons at $400, then you have every right to do it. And if you are like, if they're coming back to you and that's working, because here's the thing: is if you're a disc golf coach, your success literally rides on, is that person getting better and do they want to keep coming back? And if you're able to hold clients at that price, then go for it.
Good for you.
Now,
I guess.
If I were going to start doing disc golf lessons, it would be for beginner players. And if I was going to give you an hour lesson, I probably wouldn't charge you more than 50, 60, 70 bucks, somewhere in that range. But it's one of those things where you don't want to price yourself too low if people are willing to pay. It's a weird one. Because like in golf, it also, here's another thing. It also comes down to what kind of lesson are you offering? Because in disc golf, especially, like in golf, you can get anything from, the local pro is going to take you out to the driving range and watch you with his eyeballs, to we have an academy here at our golf course, and I'm going to take you down here and put this vest on you that's going to show you all these things, and then we're going to track man it, and we're going to do all this stuff. So in disc golf, for the longest time, that didn't exist. It's starting to now. So I would pay a heck of a lot more for a guy that's got slow motion cameras and it's got a radar gun and got the tech disc and knows how to interpret that data. I would pay a lot more for that than I would for some guy who's just going to watch me and film me on his iPhone and tell me some stuff. So that's where you're going to start getting a range there. But it is one of those weird ones where it's like, and I know honestly, your best bet, Yeah, it just depends on your area. Cause like I think we have some guys that aren't super expensive in our local area, but it's not a super common thing. Like disc golf individual lessons. The online ones are getting more popular though, like personal lessons. I would look online.
I should start doing lessons now that I have a tech disc. What am I thinking? People
There
would
you
love
go.
to throw that thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if you get Scott Stokely method certified, you can probably start charging $1,000 an hour.
Yeah,
That's what you want.
I'm okay. What I'll say though, because this is how I've worked Cameo, which you guys are on.
Heck yeah.
Dude,
Bogey Bros are on Cameo. I'm on Cam. Everyone's on Cameo.
Everyone's on Cameo. Your mom's on Cameo.
Come get a shout out for your birthday on Cameo. But when I first got on Cameo, how I figured out how to price myself was simply just how many cameos I wanted to do.
Right.
That's kind of
how coaches are probably doing it too.
Yeah.
It's like if I made my lessons $20,
if you go at 100, if you go $100 and you're like, I only want to do 7 lessons a week, and those fill up right away, and you've got 300 other people being like, I want lessons, then it's like, okay, let me see, like if I charge 150, if I charge 200, and it still fills. I mean, that's how you be an entrepreneur.
Well, to be fair, you probably have like most of the people, like if I were doing coaching, my equation would be this. Okay, how much do I want to be able to how much do I want to be able to make off this? Let's say I want to make $800 a month. Okay, that would be my target goal. That's something that would make it worthwhile for me. Okay, how much time do I want to spend to make that $800? Do I want to spend an hour a week? Do I want to spend 5 hours a week? How much? And then you do the math, figure out your price, and then see if that makes sense and can you sell it? Like that's how people are probably working their way to it. I don't know how many guys are out there just like, well, I'm just going to charge this just because I'm greedy. I feel like people are just trying to make it make sense for their schedule. Because there's like nobody that's doing this full time. It's not really a thing. There's like maybe
There's quite a few doing it.
There's some YouTubers and there's some guys that travel doing clinics. Like I mean, Scott Stokely makes a lot of his money doing clinics and selling online.
I think there's more guys being local coaches than you think.
Yeah, maybe
Full time
though. Like
I've met a few.
there's not. I don't know of any guys in our area
Now
that
they'll play some local stuff, right? Like they'll play some beat, but they're not touring full time.
Yeah.
So like their full time thing is
good for them.
Heck, we did a battle with the guy out in Oregon, and he was full time. All he did was played local tournaments and was coaching.
But he owned a business.
He was a part owner of
a disc
small
golf business. Right, but I'm just saying, well, so he had at least another side hustle. Like,
but I'm just saying, when I asked him what he did for a living, his answer was a coach. That was
part
his
of
answer.
like no, but I don't think he was just a disc golf coach though. I think he did.
I asked him.
Okay, well, you got to be a hustler. Maybe it can be done. I don't know. Bogey Bros lessons. You guys interested? We charge $1,000.
Imagine if that was like every job though, because obviously with coaching, you can have that mindset of what you just said. Like, I want to make this much money. This is how much time I want to put into it. But like, imagine if you're like, I'm going to start streaming on Twitch and you're like, I want to make $1,000 a month, but I only want to work 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
You would quit after the first week.
No, yeah.
You would stream for 20 hours and you'd make $2 and then be like, all right, I'm done.
Yeah.
But for coaching, I think I don't know.
You can do it. Yeah.
Yeah. You can actually set, because I think that's kind of backwards, right? Like you should set how much hours you want to put into something and be like looking at like down the road, the work I'm putting in right now will make it worth it for down the road.
Because it's the same thing if you're like a carpenter or if you're like a graphic designer. Like
you already have
really
something
good.
that people want.
Yeah.
Right.
But
not having to build anything.
Right.
Yeah. It's different than trying to build something up.
I'm going to start working out my website, the Trevor Staub method.
There you go. Hey, if you need someone to build it, I can do it. It only costs $15,000.
See?
And it'll take me 3 hours.
I respect that. If you want to round and miss putts.
Yeah.
Get on the method.
I sent Trevor the final story too,
so
as well, because I just can't see now.
The new iOS update, if you send a long enough text, it like shortens it and it turns it into like a notes page almost.
That's what Android used to do. So
fascinating.
Glad Apple's finally here.
Hunter sent me this text and it like cut off at the end and there was like a ... and an arrow, and I clicked on the arrow and it goes to like the super long, so it didn't show up on my text message because it would have been just absurd.
This is the tragedy. This
story is from Louis Bellamore or Louis Bellamore or however you'd like to pronounce it. We'll say Louis. Okay, here we go. So myself and a group of buddies went to Indiana for an A tier, the 2023 Skybreed Open, playing in the MA3 division. let's keep that in mind for future references. So it's okay. Keep that in mind. MA3. Now, my performance, I was putting out of my mind. I was draining everything in sight. Again, playing in MA3. How do you get strokes and the biggest differential? Again, playing in MA3, how do you get the biggest strokes and differential? It's putting. And boy, I was making it rain with the Rainmaker, I might add. My putting performance propelled me into an 8-stroke lead into the final day. The last course was on a golf course, low-key the worst style I play on, and was super windy, of course, when the first 2 days was prime weather. So here's where it gets interesting. We get to a hole that's basically set up as an island, and the basket is uphill about 250 to 270 away. And to the left is a putting green, which it was a bunker, and the bunker took up the majority of the fairway. I don't know how you typed that a little bit wrong.
It was kind of weirdly worded, but I think what he's saying is like there's a bunker on the left and then a green, a green on the left and then a bunker that takes up, like that's what kind of forms the island, is how I understood it. He worded it weird.
Yeah. The bunker took up the majority of the fairway, in quotes. There was a small walking path to the right that was inbounds, but wasn't very wide for the layup route. I pulled out a Captain Raptor and proceeded to barely throw over 100 feet. That was just before the bunker. The rest of the car proceeds to throw. I get my shot, and as I'm practicing my approach shot with my zone, Steven Skibble, card mate, walks past me without making eye contact and calls me out for using an illegal disc. Whoa. A drive-by. I look down and see one piece of glow tape on top. Steven Skibble, are we just name dropping or did he make up a name? I think I'm just name dropping.
I have no idea.
That sounds made up. That sounds like
I don't know. Steven might be getting blasted right now.
I have no idea. I just sent the story.
He says he continues to walk and say, you have glow tape and it affects the weight of the disc. My first instant thought and the rest of the card mates was, bruh, really? One player came to me and said, I can't believe you really called that. It's freaking MA3. I stood there clueless, not knowing what to do next. No one said anything, so I thought it was just a warning. Oh, no, it's not. I proceeded with my upshot and finished the hole. My round has been affected with the unpredictable wind. It made my disc do some weird things. We get to the last hole. My lead has gone from an 8-stroke to a 2-stroke lead, par 4 in the last hole. Laced my drive and approach to make just inside circle 1. Now I could have made the putt as I was doing all weekend, but I just laid up. I tapped out and took a deep breath, of sigh, as this was the big win I was wanting before I move up to MA2. As I grab my disc, I know where this is going, and prepare myself for congratulations, I see Steve Skibble halfway up the path to Tourney Central. That freaking dog, dude. I'm so mad. As I get up there, my buddies who are waiting to congratulate me told me that Steven has told the TD that I used an illegal disc. I'm flabbergasted that he would do that for a rec division. We're not playing for money. You can tell the TDs don't want to do anything about it, but felt obligated. They kind of are. Everybody is standing around waiting a decision. Steven Skibble's in the back by himself, not wanting to face the music. The TD says he's giving me a 2-stroke penalty. I guess there is no warnings. I believe it's technically, you once you're warned, you get a stroke for each time you use it.
For every time you use the disc.
Something like that.
I immediately regretted not taking the putt on 18 as it would have given me a 3-stroke lead. As Steven Skibble heard that I got a 2-stroke penalty, he freaking ran out of there. What makes it worse, he wasn't even in contention by a long shot. So now I'm in a 3-person playoff. I'm frustrated, went long into circle 2 off the tee while the other 2 parked it on a par 3. My first thought was, great, I lost. I went to my drive, not going through my routine, grabbed my Rainmaker and cashed it in the heart of the chains. Crowd goes wild, seriously. Next hole. Par 4, second shot went to the edge of the circle, second in line to putt. First guy missed for birdie. I then cashed it again. Third guy parked his second shot. Me and the other guy went on to play 2 more holes where I made big time putts. Stretched out on a knee out of the woods, cash. Then I went on to the next hole. Wind flipped over my Athena and took me out of a putting range while the other guy put it about 15 feet away. So I lost an A tier. I was an A tier. And I completely dominated because of a piece of a glow tape that had no effect on the outcome. And in all honesty, I just wanted the trophy. It was a freaking sick trophy. Like he could have had the win. I just wanted the trophy. So moral of the story, screw Steven Skibble. So that's the story of how I got robbed, but not technically. That's awful.
Tough. That's a tragedy.
Was this tournament the Skybreed Disc Open?
Yeah. Yes. Is that his actual name?
The real person.
No. We just dropped him. Steven. What are you doing, Steven?
Oh, no.
He got 7th.
He got his revenge then. Oh
Dang,
man,
that's
Steven, dude. I hope you don't have a Facebook, man.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to wait. Did this guy say his name or is this anonymous?
Luis Bellamore.
Yeah, Luis
Louis
Bellamore.
Bellamoire.
It's
something.
Louis,
Hey, shout
yeah.
out to Braden Hunter though for taking it down.
Oh
That's
my
tough.
gosh,
That's
dude.
tough.
I mean, here's the thing, Lewis. We're totally on your side. That is the dumbest thing ever. Anybody ever calls something like on that, you're an awful person. That is so stupid. You know good and well that piece of glow tape is not giving
Effective.
every advantage to that person. That's a scumbag move. And I feel for you. That's
very tough.
awful. And the fact that you almost dug yourself out of that hole, that's epic.
Yeah. Well, can you imagine the crowd support behind him as he's like banging all these putts in the playoff?
Dude,
Like, what was it, 4-hole
that
playoff?
guy, he wasn't even in contention, man.
Yeah.
And he just ran out of there. Oh, I got to be heated.
Yeah.
Glow tape.
But there you have it. That's this week's off-season podcast. I need to go take some medicine or something. My right eye can't see anything anymore. Migraine's fully coming in, so we're having a great time.
We're trying to make aces today, so
yeah, we'll see what happens here. If you have a topic or story you want to submit for the off-season podcast, be sure to click the link in the description down below. And other than that, we'll see you again next week.
see ya.